Technically guilty of murder. My dad had Lou Gehrig's disease and I helped him get a high dose of Nembutal. We kept it for a couple of months until he stopped basically being able to communicate. Eventually he was losing control of his hands, but he really wanted to take it himself. So we mixed it with some porridge, goes down easier, and he took some antiemetics over the course of the day. Then in the evening he ate the porridge with the crazy green drug in it and he died. Where I live, this is murder. My dad was dying though, with no possible hope of a cure. He couldn't speak, choked constantly, could barely sleep and could only use 2 fingers. His life was hell. He didn't want to live and had said it would get to that point from the moment he was diagnosed. One of his parents also died the same way. I regret nothing. I'm just thankful it's not the known genetic form. I'm a hospice nurse. When people are really close to death you have to be really careful with them. You have to turn unconscious people every 2 hours to prevent skin breakdown. Sometimes when you turn them, their lungs collapse and they die. Sometimes they aspirate, inhale their liquid medications, no matter how carefully or slowly you give them, and they die. Sometimes when you bathe them, they die. Sometimes, I feel like a mass murderer and I really hate my job. I'm really good at my job and I know that I make a positive difference in my patients' and families' lives and I love that part. I'm also scared because I don't cry anymore or feel anything when people die, like my heart is a rock in my chest. I killed a man. I have no regrets, I was never caught, and in the same situation I'd do it again, because I honestly believe it was him or me. He tried to mug me, I didn't let him, he got violent. When he pulled a knife I decided it was all or nothing so, yeah. He died. I didn't care but I got away from the scene. I felt no guilt and I still don't, but I was terrified about being caught. It probably went down as just another drugged up scumbag getting his comeuppance. I broke his hand, crushed his throat, managed to get him over my shoulder so he fell headfirst onto the curb and kicked his sternum until it broke. I suppose that might have crushed his heart or something. Could have been the head versus ground thing too. I honestly don't care. He attacked, he had a weapon, I protected myself. One less a-hole at large. More manslaughter than murder but whatever. I killed him and I sleep easy at night. Vandal and arson, the neighbor down the street from us, killed my dachshund. She was a little older than a puppy and very sweet. One night she tunneled out from our backyard and I had to run after her. I thought she was in some bushes but I was wrong. I was hidden behind these bushes when I saw my neighbor's minivan run her down. They backed up, hit her again, backed up, and ran her over once more before they left. For some reason I didn't feel like telling my parents that because it's a bad story. It was better to just say she didn't suffer and that it was quick. In the meantime I was breaking their sprinkler system and I sprinkled weed killer on their yard so the grass and flowers turned brown. They had 4 cars and I broke all their windows and stole all their radios. I had no idea how to steal radios so it turned out horrible. I ruined their wood paneling. The car alarms went off but no one came out. I carefully stuck nails into their yard by the ladder, by the recycling bin, and by the sprinkler timer so there would be a greater chance of one of them stepping onto the nails. They installed cameras by the house so I didn't want to risk going inside. When they installed the new glass windows, I broke them again and set fire to the inside. It didn't feel like anything, it was boring. I should have left her body on their pillow to remind them of what they did. I should have taken their miniature poodles and dropped them off at the Human Society several towns over. I should have taken a knife to all their furniture and left picture of dead dogs in every room of that house. I should have poured animal blood in all their bedrooms and filled all their orange juice or milk with blood. But that requires energy I don't have. About 13 years ago my sister, young teen at the time, started dating her first boyfriend. Kid was 19. He was completely obsessed, would verbally abuse her, etc. etc. As far as I know his abuse never got physical, but after she broke up with him he'd creep around our parents' house, call the house at 3 a.m. just to hang up, threaten her. He pretty much managed to piss me off. So, said guy worked at a driving school where he corrected test quizzes after hours. I drove there one evening with a friend to give him one last warning. He told me to F off or he'd call the cops. So my friend and I took out my friend's aluminum baseball bat out of the trunk, tuned up the kid's car a bit and, when he came outside, took one good swing to his legs. Then I told him he could call the cops now. He never did, the phone calls stopped, I never saw him again. Not quite the dramatic story, but it's all I got. Someone raped a female friend of mine, and she wouldn't go to the police about it. The guy was drunk and forced himself on her. She doesn't drink. Caught the guy from behind one night by chance and beat and kicked the crap out of him, took his wallet, and left. Lived in a bad area at the time, a guy getting mugged late at night was nothing more than a statistic. I figured a completely random beating might have drawn more attention. I later found out that he'd done the same thing to at least one other woman. I have zero regrets, beyond not thinking enough to aim for his genitals more. I'm pretty sure I'd have a lot more trouble sleeping at night if I'd done nothing. A guy pushed me over in a bar. I'm a girl. This guy had previously assaulted women. He had punched his ex in the face and had been to court for bottling a woman, but he was never sentenced because there wasn't enough evidence. But yeah. He pushed me over and I just snapped. I hit him in the face with the pint glass I was holding. The whole thing broke on his face. There was so much blood. The police were called. I was being really calm and coherent. I was cooperating with them so they didn't cuff me. I got in the car with them and was held in a call overnight. Couple of no-comment interviews later and I'm free. Went to court and plead guilty. Got 180 hours community service, £285 fine and a 6-week exclusion order from bars, pubs and clubs. Looking back, I overreacted. But he really deserved it. I still have glass in my hand. And this happened about 2 or 3 months ago. I met a girl when I was 14 and stayed with her till 20. Something happened to her that changed her personality after a year together. I eventually learned she had been raped by the HVAC guy while her parents were a few hours away on business. I tracked him down and hospitalized him. Not comfortable saying more, because it was severe and I was never caught. The end. I had a plan to kill my mother but I never went through with it. The story is she was a heroin addict that cleaned up her life and had actually become a drug and alcohol counselor when I went to live with her when I was 14. By the time I was 16, she had started to abuse prescription drugs and our relationship was getting increasingly more abusive. She would keep me up at night being loud and high. Sometimes she'd wake me up at random times to cry and tell me she wanted to die, that her life was miserable, and apologize for being such a bad mom. Then in the morning, she would grab me by the ankle and pull me out of bed, yelling the whole time about how stupid I was and how ungrateful I was and how I was such a terrible kid. Looking back, it was a textbook abuse. One second she was telling me she was the only person who actually loved me, then next tearing me down, telling me I wasn't worth anything, that I shouldn't go to college. She tried to convince me not to go to school, or work or to hang out with my friends. She threw things at me, shoved me around, and would block the door when I tried to leave the room rather than fight with her. After months of escalating behavior, not being able to sleep at night, not having any food in the house except when I would buy it, I snapped. I started to plan her fake suicide. I was going to feed her every pill in her pill box, literally a 10-gallon Tupperware filled with pill bottles. The reason I didn't try is actually because other people tried to kill her before and it didn't work. Also, I wasn't really sure how I was going to get her to take all those pills without showing evidence of a struggle. Eventually, I broke down and told my best friend what was going on. She immediately told her parents and I went to live with her until I went to college. I'm a girl. I was 15 when this happened. Legally, I'm responsible for the death of my best friend and her unborn baby, my godchild. I've told this story before, but not on a throwaway, and the hatred I received, although there was also the kind words, caused me to delete my account. One guy threatened to talk to his uncle, a judge, to see if anything could be done to incarcerate me, but I just thought that was embarrassing, especially as I've been through the police stuff and there's nothing they want to do. Story time. My best friend and I were abused by my biological father. She turned to anorexia in the next few years to cope. She relapsed 100 times, hospitalized 4 times. She seemed better. I was dealing with my own stuff for a while and she was there for me, and was amazing, and everything a best friend should be. Then she got pregnant, by her boyfriend, although she was still only 16. Her body was still weak, she'd only had maybe 2 periods before this in the previous 4 months. And then came relapse. I noticed. I figured it out and I didn't want her to be mad at me. We'd only started repairing our friendship again and I didn't want to lose her. Ironic. So I didn't tell anyone. I assumed her love of her baby would cause her to eat for it. Her parents then figured it out. She invited me over, accused me of telling them and attacked me. She was effing weak, but she threw things, a suitcase, for example, and eventually, to stop her, I hit her back. It wasn't a strong smack, but it was enough. She was hospitalized the next day and she lost her baby, and then, maybe 12 hours later, she died. Her face when her mum told her she miscarried still haunts me. I wasn't allowed to the funeral. I still don't know where her grave is. So I hit a pregnant anorexic. Eggshell rule says I'm responsible, but only after refusing to report her relapse, for selfish reasons. Have at me. Arsonist here. I guess it was 8 or 9 years ago now. Things were kinda tough, so my son and I were selling dessert foods down at the pier. That place was so effing uncomfortable, cramped, hot, but we need to scrape things together to get by. We also had to support my brother, since he couldn't seem to get his things together. He didn't live with us at the time, but we'd help him out with this and that. We'd give him some small work here and there to help with his self-confidence, but he was a real screw-up. Our father was also in jail for a number of things. For a time, it seemed like jail was exactly what he needed to get his life in order. My mother was a constant chore, too. She treated people like garbage and has always been lying and manipulative. Lots of family issues there, but whatever. Anyway, this was also when my sister and her family had just moved back. Which was nice, because my niece and my son were about the same age, so they got to hang out and became friends. I was glad, since it helped take his mind off things a bit. But after working down at the pier for so long, something happened. I guess the stress just got to my son, because I got a call from my niece one day. I got down to the pier and my son had sort of snapped. He wasn't really acting like himself, he was frantic, saying he was gonna do this and that. I decided enough was enough. I didn't want my son's teenage years to be like mine. I didn't want him constantly trying to make me happy when clearly he was having a terrible time. I wanted him to have fun, to enjoy himself, all that stuff. And that's when we burned down the banana stand. A number of years ago I was at a party, heavily liquored up, when all of a sudden a fight broke out. When I noticed one of my friends was getting beat up, I jumped in to save him and thus got the crap kicked out of me by a number of coked out gentlemen. In the midst of the chaos and between consciousness and drunkenness I managed to get the pocket knife out of my pocket and I latched onto the nearest effer I could get my hands on. I ended up on the back of the biggest guy and I slashed across his neck. He made it to the hospital to get stitches and rather than press charges, declared a vendetta. The state thought differently and carried through with the charges themselves. They charged me with attempted manslaughter and assault with a deadly weapon. I took a deal and did 395 days in a medium security state penitentiary. I haven't seen him since, but I know we both have families, lives, futures. My only hope is that he has long since forgiven me and now lives in peace. The only thing I regret about the whole ordeal is that I didn't get to this thread any sooner.